All right, so let's dive into something pretty interesting. It's Wio Bank, and their 1% cash back on credit card payments.
Yeah.
You set this in, and I think it caught your eye because it almost seems too good to be true. You pay your credit cards with their credit, and somehow you get rewarded for it.
Right. It's kind of like financial jujitsu. You're using credit to pay off credit and getting a little bit back for it, which is not something you see every day.
Definitely not. So, okay, let's unpack this a little bit. What we're looking at here is you can use a Wio credit card to pay off balances on other credit cards, and somehow they're giving you 1% back on that.
Yeah, and that's kind of where the catch comes in, right?
There's always a catch.
There's always a catch.
Right.
So looking closer at the terms and conditions, it turns out you're limited to 3 of these special types of payments per month.
Oh, so you can't just pay off all your credit card debt with this and be swimming in cash back.
No, unfortunately not. I know, it would be great. There's actually another limit too. So the total cash back you can earn from this particular type of payment, it's capped at 1% of your Wio credit limit.
Okay.
So, for example, if you have, let's say, a 100,000 AED credit limit, you could theoretically earn up to 1,000 AED each month just from paying off those other cards.
So not unlimited, but still potentially a pretty good chunk of change.
Yeah, it's not insignificant for sure, especially if you're someone who, manages multiple cards and has a pretty high credit limit already.
Yeah, I mean, this is making my brain spin a little bit, but I think we need to talk about the potential downsides too,
Yeah.
right? Like, what are we not seeing here?
Right, and you brought up a good point earlier, kind of like playing credit card Tetris, right?
Yeah.
You've got all these due dates, potential interest charges. It could get really messy if you're not careful and organized.
For sure. And that's what we always try to do on the deep dive is, not tell you what to do, but help you figure out if it's right for you and your situation.
Absolutely. And to your point, I don't think this is an approach that's, appropriate or right for everybody. You have to be really disciplined with your finances to make this work.
Yeah. Juggling due dates and payments and interest and all that. If that's not your thing.
Yeah, it's a high wire act. You got to be really good at it. You got to be paying attention.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we need to talk about the kind of the zoomed out picture too.
Yeah.
This 1% cash back, that's one piece of the puzzle. Like, what is Wio trying to do here?
Yeah, they want to be your central financial hub. So the more of your financial life that you can bring under their umbrella, the better it is for them.
Right. So they want all your checking and your savings and your credit cards and, investments all in one place.
Exactly. And this 1% cash back, it's like a really shiny lure to get you in the door.
Yeah. So it's kind of like when you see those big tech ecosystems. Like once you're in, you're in.
Right. And they're banking on the fact that once you start using their platform, maybe you'll stick around for those other products too, like high yield savings accounts or international money transfers or even some investment options.
So the 1% is just kind of the thing to get you in the door, and then boom, you're using all their services.
I mean, it's a strategy. It's a customer acquisition and retention strategy, and they're not the only ones doing this, right? You see this across industries, but for you as a consumer or listener, the question is like, does this fit with your financial picture?
Right. And is this the right kind of, reward or system for how you manage your finances?
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about the good. Let's talk about the bad. Like, what are some of the possible downsides that you see?
Well, as with any credit card strategy, I think the biggest risk is the potential to fall into a debt trap.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're not really meticulous about tracking your spending and payments across, potentially now multiple cards, you could end up owing more than you can handle.
Oh, that's scary. So you're kind of just shuffling debt around, not really eliminating it.
Right, and those interest charges can really pile up quickly if you're not on top of it. Wio does offer, I think it's 60 days of interest-free credit on their card, so that gives you a little bit of breathing room. But if you slip up, if you miss a payment, those interest charges can easily wipe out any cash back you might have earned.
Oh, that would be the worst. Okay, so it seems like it comes down to knowing yourself and your financial habits.
Yeah.
Are you the kind of person who has calendar reminders for every single bill and you're on top of everything, or you just kind of set it and forget it?
Right. And there's no judgment either way, right?
Yeah.
It's about figuring out what what works for you, what's best for your financial situation.
Absolutely. So, okay, I think we've established so far that, they let you earn this 1% cash back by paying other credit cards with their card. It sounds great on the surface, but there's some stuff to think about.
Right. It's definitely not as simple as it might appear at first glance. And, there's more to unpack here. We need to think about how this fits into their sort of bigger game plan.
Right, like what are they really up to?
Exactly. What are they really up to? And how does this affect like the wider financial world? And most importantly, what does it mean for you, the listener?
Right. How does this apply to you and what you're trying to do? Stay tuned for more on that.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
So we've been talking about Wio Bank and this 1% cash back they're offering for paying off other credit card balances with their card.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting approach. Definitely not something you see every day.
Definitely not. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around this whole thing. Like, what's the big picture here? What's Wio's game plan with all of this?
Well, I think it's all about, becoming that central financial hub for you.
Okay.
The more of your financial life you can bring under their umbrella, obviously, the better it is for them, right?
So instead of having all these different accounts for, checking and savings, credit cards, investments, they want it all in one place with them.
Exactly. And this 1% cash back offer, it's kind of a clever way to incentivize that, right? It's almost like they're saying, hey, we know you've got these other credit cards out there, but why not, simplify things and bring them all under the Wio roof.
And get rewarded for it.
Exactly.
It's almost like what we see with a lot of these big tech ecosystems where they're trying to, once you're in one of their products, they want you to use all their other products.
Right, exactly. And, they're sort of betting on the fact that once you start using their platform for, these credit card payments, maybe you'll stick around for their other products and services too, like high yield savings accounts or international money transfers or even some investment options.
So the 1% is kind of the bait to get you in, and then you're going to use everything.
It's a strategy, right? It's a customer acquisition and retention strategy. And, you see this across industries. But for you as the consumer or as the listener, the question is, does this work for you?
Right.
Yeah. Does this fit in with your overall financial picture? Does this align with your financial goals? Do you need or want those other services that they offer?
Right. So they're taking on a little bit of risk here too, right? They're basically taking on the debt that you're shifting from these other cards.
Yeah.
What if people overspend and can't make their Wio payments?
Yeah. It's a calculated risk for sure. I mean, they're banking on, their ability to attract financially responsible customers who understand how to manage their credit effectively, and if you remember, we talked about those caps earlier, like the limits on the number of credit card payments you can make each month and how much cash back you can actually earn. That kind of mitigates their risk a bit.
Right. So they're giving you a deal, but they're not letting you go crazy.
Exactly. They're not going to let you just run wild with their money.
And it's worth pointing out, they're not the only ones doing this. Like, we're seeing more and more financial institutions trying to offer these, incentives and rewards to attract customers.
Yeah, it's a very competitive market out there, and financial institutions are having to get creative to stand out and attract new customers.
It's almost like a financial arms race.
Yeah.
Everyone is trying to offer the best perks and the best rates.
And ultimately, it's the consumer who benefits from that. You have more choices, you have more control, you have more power to negotiate better deals for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, we've said this a couple of times, but it's worth repeating. It really seems like this Wio offer, it's really just a reflection of how the financial landscape is evolving.
Yeah.
It's not just about traditional banking anymore. It's about, creating these complete ecosystems that cater to, today's digitally savvy customers.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, this trend is only going to accelerate as technology continues to disrupt the financial industry. We're seeing the rise of all these, fintech startups and digital payment platforms, and even, the big tech giants are entering the financial services arena. So it's a really interesting time to be, following the financial world.
It is. It's a wild west out there. But, with all this disruption and innovation, we have to remember that, the most important thing is how this affects the individual.
Absolutely. That's a great point and a great segue to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll bring it back home and really explore the implications for you, the listener.
All right, so stay tuned for that. Okay, so we're back, and we've spent a good amount of time now unpacking Wio Bank's 1% cashback offer. You know, paying off your other credit cards with their card, it's a lot to think about. But let's be real here. If you're already using Wio Bank, are you actually using this feature? And if you're not, why not?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, you know, if you're not with Wio, is this enough to make you switch? It really comes down to, you know, taking a hard look in the mirror and being honest with yourself about your financial habits and your track record.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Are you the kind of person who is on top of their credit card game? You know, always paying on time, avoiding interest charges, or do you sometimes, you know, let things slip through the cracks?
And there's no judgment here, right? It's just about being self-aware. Because this 1% cashback, while, you know, really enticing, it could easily backfire if you're not really careful.
It could definitely backfire. So let's just say, hypothetically, you are a credit card ninja. You're always on top of your payments. You never miss a due date. You know, you stay within your budget. Does that mean this offer is automatically a good deal for you?
You know, not necessarily. And the reason I say that is, you know, we've talked about these caps, right? The limit on how many payments you can make each month and on how much cash back you can actually earn. So you really got to do the math. Will this actually make a meaningful difference for you?
Right.
And, you know, look at your spending patterns, look at your current credit card setup, see if this actually makes sense for you.
And I think another thing to keep in mind is, you know, those potential downsides. Like, what happens if, you know, an unexpected expense comes up and you can't pay your Wio balance in full? Then suddenly, those interest charges, they're going to start eating away at all the cash back you might have earned.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, you know, at the end of the day, we've given you a lot of information. We've walked through the mechanics, the pros, the cons, and really now it's up to you to apply this to your own unique situation.
Exactly. Take what we've talked about, think about your own personal finances, and make the decision that's best for you.
Absolutely. And even if this specific cashback offer isn't the right fit for you, hopefully you've gained some valuable insights about the changing world of finance and how to be a more informed consumer.
That's what we're always trying to do here on the Deep Dive. We're trying to give you the knowledge and the tools to navigate all these complex financial decisions.
Exactly. And the landscape is constantly changing. There's always new products, new services, new trends to keep up with. So just, you know, stay curious, keep learning, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Well said. And with that, we've reached the end of this deep dive. But like we always say, the journey of financial discovery never really ends. So stay tuned. We'll be back with more deep dives into the fascinating world of personal finance.